Hello, lovers and haters, likers and dislikers. My name is Shannon Gregory. I'm originally from Indiana, which makes me a Hoosier, but now I'm a sinner. I live in Vegas, Sin City, and as you may have heard, all I got for living here is this lousy t shirt. So today I want to thank all of you brave souls out there who have put the topic of pronoun use on the agenda, the topic of conversation. It's an issue that's being talked about at corporations, universities, schools, dinner tables around this country, perhaps the world. I'm not sure how far it's going, but thank you. Because as someone with a unisex name like I have, Shannon, I have been plagued with misuse of pronouns for me for a big part of my life. And it really bothered me for so many years. And so back in the 80s, long before a lot of you were even thought of, as your parents probably like to tell you, I was corrupting pronouns. I want to toot my own horn because I was one of the first to corrupt pronouns, maybe not the first, but I was a pioneer in pronoun corruption back in the 80s when I was a teenager. Since my name is Shannon, I have been, as you may or may not be surprised, bullied and ridiculed for a large part of my life because I'm effeminate. I had a female-ish name because in this country, the U.S., people associate Shannon more with females than males. Although outside of this country, from what I understand, Shannon is more popular among males, especially in Ireland. There's a river, Ireland, Shannon, and there's a town, Shannon, airport, Shannon, which I have been to. So hi, Shannon, Ireland, and River Shannon. So anyway, I don't know, but in this country, people associate Shannon with females. So I was plagued with that. Like, why did your parents give you a girl's name? Like, I have any control over what my parents give me as a name. Just like Engelbert Humperdinck didn't choose his name. I mean, the poor soul, his was worse than mine, right? I couldn't choose neither no more than Engelbert Humperdinck could choose his name. So please give me a break. Well, anyway, because my name was unisex, I hated it for a long time. Although now I consider it a gift. So thank you to my parents for giving me the horror and pleasure of a unisex name throughout my life. It gives me this material to talk about, right? So anyway, the name has been a big source of the pronoun issues for me, but also my voice. As you probably can notice, I have a gay voice. It's out of my control, but I always joked that I was if Liberace and Richard Simmons had a love child, it would sound like me. For those of you who may not know who those people are, Liberace, the late Liberace, is a flamboyant pianist who had a residency here in fabulous Las Vegas in the 80s, maybe even in the 70s. I'm not sure how long he was doing his show. But he was outrageous, very fun, but very flaming gay, although he always denied being gay. Look it up, it's a big issue. But anyway, and then Richard Simmons, although he's more reclusive now, he's, a prancing queen around like me. So I always joked that I would be, if they had a love child, it would sound like me. But also, so when I would go through drive-thrus or on the phone, I'm sure some of you have had this issue. People always say, thanks, ma'am, or miss, or Miss Gregory. And they still, to this day, do this to me. And it bothers me, but I don't even say anything because I'm like, it's just been my whole life. I remember when I first got a letter in the mail, like as a kid, it was addressed to Ms. Shannon Gregory. And that just started that trauma. But it still bothers me, obviously, but whatever, I have to move on, right? Well, that's why I celebrate this debate and this conversation about pronouns, because it really matters to people, because people get described all the time, including me. Although I consider myself male, I always wanted to be called it. In the 80s, when I was corrupting pronouns, I encouraged people to call me it, because I didn't want the baggage associated with either male pronouns or female pronouns. I didn't want any of the baggage associated with the gender roles that we assign to those collectively. Just call me it, call it a day, and I'm happy. Although I consider myself male, just call me it. On the phone, just be neutral, gender neutral. I would prefer that over being called Ms. Anyway, but back in the 80s, when this was a big problem for me, I understood a lot of the contributing factors, like, one, my name, 2, I'm effeminate, 3, I was androgynous for a while. I don't know how I got into androgyny, but a lot of the musical artists I followed in the 80s were into it. It was kind of an 80s trend for a little bit. and I got into it too. And so, but I would look in the mirror and I'm like, why do people think I'm a girl? But then I just let it go. I was like, whatever, it's part of the 80s experiment. And then also, Aerosmith came out with a song in the 80s called Dude Looks Like a Lady. And I thought, oh, great. And all my haters took that as like, oh, they wrote this is your theme song. And I'm like, those bitches don't even know me, okay? So how could they write a song about me? I hated the song then, but I love it now. So Dude Looks Like a Lady is a rock song, and I love it. But at the 80s, I hated it because I'm like, it was just another source of bullying and ridicule for me. But I also identified a lot with Pat on Saturday Night Live back in the 80s. It was a sketch that really resonates to this day for me, and maybe some of you, as someone with a unisex name like Pat, which is actually my mom's name too. It's very ironic. But Pat, the sketch is about a figure who no one can figure out if Pat is male or female. And they don't want to be offensive like people did with me in high school. So they try to figure out who Pat is by talking to Pat, saying, so Pat, do you like hot rods and motorcycles? Just to see if Pat is male. But Pat always kept it ambiguous and would never reveal its gender. And it was hilarious, and I laugh at that today because I feel like I'm Pat embodied. I'm a real Pat. Pat was a character on Saturday Night Live, but I'm a real Pat. But Shannon, it still applies. They're both unisex names, right? So anyway, like Peppermint Patty, who was wearing Birkenstocks before they were a footwear trend for other lesbians, I was corrupting pronouns in the 80s before a lot of you are. But I want to thank you because I'm behind you. You're taking it where I couldn't take it, so keep going. Keep pushing your pronoun debate, and I'm cheering you on. All right? Until next time, toodles. Bye-bye.